Please welcome your 74th Governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia, Governor Glenn Youngkin.
Welcome. Thank you. Please sit down. Thank you so much. It must be a budget discussion, because the only other time there is this many people in this room is when we are signing a bill to get harmful dyes out of our kids' food. So thank you all for coming this morning. As the General Assembly adjourned on February the 22nd, I have had the great opportunity and privilege to reviewing 916 bills that they passed and the 515 budget amendments that they adopted and sent over to me in their conference report. I'll sign most of the bills. I will amend others. And yes, I'll veto some. But as of this morning, I have already signed 365 bills and will be completing action on all of them by midnight tonight. But before we do that, right now, we are gathered to talk about the largest and most complex of those bills and the actions that we will be taking on the budget today. Today, I'm proud to present to you the amendment package to the conference report, House Bill 1600, a bill which makes amendments to our fiscal year 2025-2026 biennium budget that we have already adopted. See, this time last year we had to go to work as well, and we stood in this very room and we presented the Common Ground budget. That budget took us to a good place, a place of common ground that while I was disappointed because it removed all of the tax relief that I had introduced, it also removed the tax hike that the General Assembly Democrat leadership had proposed and made a series of modifications to maintain structural balance over the biennium and into the future. And on top of that, included substantial investments, record investments, in places that we know Virginia needs to continue to lead. All of that while preserving $8 billion of tax relief for Virginia families over the two biennium that have defined our time in this administration. We delivered a record $21 billion for public education, a historic $20 billion in general funds supporting Medicaid, behavioral health, developmental disabilities, and other health care priorities, $5 billion to back up our law enforcement, first responders, and military heroes, $2 billion in support of record investment in job-growing infrastructure, and again, something very near and dear to my heart, the healthiest Chesapeake Bay in decades. Ultimately, the final budget we adopted in May of last year ensured that our collective priorities, our administration and the General Assembly's priorities were well funded. But the key to that moment was that every party around the table had to give up something. This year, with a projected $3.2 billion surplus above the baseline budget in Chapter 2, we have to take the same approach. Everyone around the table will need to take a little less than what they want, but still there is a substantial increase in so many areas. And I'm optimistic that we can, again, deliver the same positive results and the same leadership that Virginians deserve. My budget amendments and the resulting budget package reflect the following reality. Virginia has never been stronger. Strong job growth, strong startup launches, now over 15,000 high-growth businesses, strong business investment, strong population growth, a strong balance sheet, and yes, now moving into our fourth year of record surplus after surplus. That strength allows us to achieve three key objectives. Number one, to provide needed additional tax relief of $1 billion that will bring a cumulative $9 billion of tax relief during our time together. Second, to provide incremental funding for key priorities on top of the record investment in the Common Ground budget, but not overwhelming fiscal years 27 and 28 with ongoing spending obligations. And third, to create even more reserve cushion as we recognize, first, the need for the moves that are being taken in Washington to restore fiscal responsibility, and two, the near-term uncertainty that comes with that. Our strong Virginia provides substantial tools to address every expressed risk that President Trump himself has been preparing us for, that there may be economic dislocation as he restores this fiscal responsibility so needed in Washington. We are strong. We are being dynamic in how we are managing our budget. And let me tell you, Virginia will keep winning together. Taken together, the package of amendments, 205 amendments, and 8 item vetoes I am offering accomplish exactly this mission. $1.1 billion in tax relief. By the way, that totals now $4,600 in tax relief during our administration for a typical Virginia family. And if that family happens to have a military retiree pension, it's $12,600 for that family during our administration. Second, we are providing substantial incremental investments in education, healthcare, public safety, commerce and trade, and of course, preserving our God-given natural wonders. And third, we are banking a further reserve of $300 million on top of the $294 million required deposit in the revenue reserve, bringing our total to nearly $5 billion of rainy day fund cushion in case we need it. We are taking on no new debt, and we have fewer long-term spending obligations, which creates an incremental $360 million in potential reserve or tax relief for the next biennium of 2027 and 2028. Once adopted, these changes to our overall budget package are providing Virginia with a sound foundation to move forward, to address all of our biennial budget needs, to ensure that our obligations, including Medicaid, are fully funded. The key message here is that we are strong. Because of that strength, we can be dynamic. And by being dynamic, Virginia will keep winning together. Now, this approach has served us incredibly well and will continue to uphold Virginia's sterling AAA bond rating. And we have earned this from all 3 rating agencies. Now, to dig a little deeper in our current financial position, we remain strong financially with state revenue running slightly ahead of plan through 8 months. Virginia's strong job growth and significant investment commitments, by the way, we just ticked over $100 billion of commitments from businesses who want to expand and grow here since January 2022, are driving job growth and revenue growth year over year, resulting again in a projected surplus for this 4th consecutive year. Since our time together, with this surplus this year, we will be at roughly $10 billion in excess revenues during this administration. We have the largest labor force in the history of the Commonwealth. We finally have turned net out migration into net in migration. There's 267,000 more people working today than 3 years ago, and we have over 250,000 open jobs for people to take in the Commonwealth, and the $100 billion of capital investment will create another 70,000 jobs. In case you hadn't heard it or didn't know it, Virginia has jobs. We continue to be confident with our fiscal year 25 and fiscal year 2026 forecasts. Although I acknowledge, and let's be clear, just as President Trump has acknowledged, there is risk in financial disruption as they take the needed actions to restore fiscal discipline in Washington. Moves that we desperately need. Folks, we have a $2 trillion a year annual deficit. Our debt crisis, which is now at $37.5 trillion in debt, looms over us, and I believe is the biggest risk that we have as a nation long term. The significant reforms under President Trump's agenda, in fact, promise long-term opportunity for the Commonwealth of Virginia. The growth in business opportunities is immense, and in areas that we have unique strengths: technology, data centers, AI, advanced manufacturing, aerospace, life sciences. In all of these areas, as companies expand here in the United States, and you have seen just a plethora of commitments to invest billions, if not trillions, into the United States, that is Virginia's opportunity to win. And I will tell you that anyone who believes that significant change doesn't come with near-term uncertainty hasn't been through significant change. In fact, our General Assembly leadership have formed 2 special committees to consider the potential impact of these changes. I am confident that they will agree that our amendment package that brings together tax relief for Virginians who need it, with continued record investment in critical areas, while increasing our reserves, not overburdening future years with too much program spending, and not taking on incremental debt, will in combination position Virginia to stand strong going forward. Once again, by depositing a discretionary $300 million in the Revenue Reserve Fund at the end of fiscal year 2026, we will bring our total for just this biennium to nearly $600 million, and our total rainy day reserves to $5 billion. Virginia is strong, and Virginia is ready. I also want to make sure that we understand that the investment priorities that we have laid out continue to be shared priorities that we know we have to invest in. Let me start with education. This budget includes $166 million more than the budget I introduced in December for public education, and it aggregates to now $450 million more than what's in the current Chapter 2 budget. We adopted Chapter 2, setting another record in investment in education at over $21 billion in direct aid, which is, by the way, a 50% increase over levels prior to the pandemic. And 50% is a big number, but $7 billion is an even more eye-catching number. The commitment that we have collectively made to K through 12 education has truly been unprecedented in Virginia's history. The new money that we are including in our amendments today, includes $85 million to raise the cap on non-instructional support positions, $52.8 million for enhanced special education, and $15 million reduced from my initial ask of 25 for college partnership lab schools. We also are providing nearly $26 million to maintain our assessment system while the new one is being completed. $25 million to increase support for schools that are identified as off track or needs intensive support under our new school performance and support framework adopted by our Board of Education. And we've included $25 million for Virginia Opportunity Scholarships so that 5,000 lower income Virginians can pursue alternative education pathways. We're including an additional $50 million for school construction grants and loans above what's in Chapter 2, bringing the total for this biennium to $610 million to help our schools build and repair. The budget includes a well-deserved bonus for teachers, as well as state employees and all state-supported local employees. This builds on the 18% teacher pay raises that we have adopted during our administration. One area that we have collectively highlighted as being critically important is our best-in-class early childhood and education program called Building Blocks for Virginia Families. This has been an absolute bipartisan collective effort to drive forward support for working families across Virginia. Our amendment includes an increase of the copay amount up to the federal standard and an increase of $7.5 million in general fund, which is on top of the $593 million that's already in the base. Our collective actions will increase the number of available slots to 7,000 open slots, providing high-quality child care to 52,000 Virginia families. And the amazing thing is it includes the ability for those families to choose which child care is best for their family. We will create the largest number of publicly supported early childhood slots in Virginia history. With regards to higher education, after years of widespread concern about the general fund support for higher education, the Common Ground budget provided over $1 billion of investment in our colleges and universities. Our amendment package offers $55 million on top of the $150 million for affordable access, $15 million more for financial aid on top of the $33 million already in the base, and $15 million for critical information technology investments in order to bring standards up across a number of our institutions of higher learning. I do believe, given the incredible support from the General Assembly and our administration for affordable access, that we should cap tuition increases at our institutions of higher ed at no more than 2.5% a year in order to continue to make it affordable for Virginia families. In addition to this new funding, my amendments will direct $60 million in non-general fund sources in order to finally fully fund our commitments to our survivors, our dependents of our military with regards to the VMSDEP educational program. We worked so hard on this over the course of the summer last year to address the shortfall in funding of this benefit that has been earned by our military heroes. And yet there is still significant concern about the sustainability of this program and the impact on affordability for other students. And therefore, this budget amendment, which uses the Commonwealth Savers Plan, which is excess money inside 529, to fund these tuition waivers up to $60 million a year, will fully fund this program once and for all. And that is something that we must collectively do. At each of these meetings with our military heroes and their families, I am constantly reminded of the sacrifices that have been made and reminded of our obligation to stand strong behind our promises to them. This use of the actuarial surplus that exists in the 529 plan for a now discontinued program is just common sense. It's a common sense way for us to make sure that we are able to fulfill these obligations. Our budget amendments also include significant capital investment for our institutions of higher learning, $820 million above the existing Chapter 2 investment levels. Very important investments, and I have included $80 million for the VMI Center for Leadership and Ethics because it belongs at VMI and it should be finished. With regards to health care, the budget provides an additional $825 million for health and human resources over the biennium, bringing us to a total of $20.8 billion that we are supporting and investing in HHR over the biennium. The budget meets and clears a significant hurdle by fully funding Medicaid and all of our obligations to CHIP forecast increases with $720 million in general fund, bringing us to a total of $16 billion in general funds and $53 billion in total funds to support these Virginians who are most in need. In addition, we will provide $105 million to the Children's Services Act caseload and cost increases. In addition to that, our amendments improve on maternal health support, including my base introduced budget and the conference report by moving maternal health mobile hub funding from the Department of Health to the Department of Medical Assistance Services, setting up a future where our managed care providers fund these supports as part of their contract. And we also restore funding for doula services at local departments. And finally, our amendments include a one-time infusion of $1.5 million in general fund to support the Department of Social Services to support security enhancements for the SNAP programs need to move to more secure EBT cards as opposed to the ones they are currently using. With regards to public safety, when adopted, my amendments will bring all-in funding for public safety to $41 million more than Chapter 2 for a total of $5.3 billion over the biennium. When compared to the biennium before I took office, this is an extraordinary increase of record proportion, highlighting the fact that our officers and sheriffs and first responders matter. We've got your back, and I want you to know that. And we're putting our money where our mouth is. This budget also includes $50 million for disaster response for relief to Southwest Virginia. We've included an amendment to broaden that to include the most recent floods that once again hit Buchanan County and neighboring counties. Our amendments also provide funding for use from local governments to require the federal to cover the required federal match, as well as authorize up to $2.5 million to be utilized for the much-needed improvements in public safety communication infrastructure. Our budget also includes $2 billion for the reimbursement of local law enforcement transportation for individuals who are in emergency custody or temporary detention orders, and tops up our SCOP program so that we can provide $4 million worth of these sworn law enforcement officers at hospitals so that we can allow our deputies and our police officers to get back to work when they are in custody of someone in crisis. It also restores $5.3 million on top of our roughly $45 million in the budget to school resource officers. Over our time, we will have committed $100 million to school resource officers, bringing our vision to reality that every school in Virginia should have a school safety officer or a school resource officer. Finally, our amendments on public safety restore an important condition on state funding for our localities. you must cooperate with lawful U.S. immigration and customs enforcement detainers. This is not a decision for people to make locally. This is for the betterment of all our safety. We're not a sanctuary state, and therefore we are not going to support localities that are declared sanctuary cities. Now, one of the great areas of progress over the course of our last 3 years together has been in economic development. And investing in business-ready sites has been a critical pillar of this. And so we are including an incremental $20 million to the highly successful Business Ready Sites Fund to establish a base funding of $40 million a year. We're also providing $7.5 million for utility infrastructure investment in a key site in Pulaski County, and $6.5 million for bringing natural gas infrastructure to a critical site on the Eastern Shore. We must continue to lead, and the investments in these sites has truly translated into enormous wins for the Commonwealth. We also have to lead when it comes to space, and this budget provides $8 million in dredging at Wallops Island to support Virginia's commercial space industry. We also retain $8 million to support transformative energy and power investments, and we restore a $20 million line of credit to support runway expansion at the Roanoke-Blacksburg Regional Airport, which we know we must get going on. These amendments also include $50 million in additional non-general funds added to the Community Flood Preparedness Fund, bringing to a total of $150 million during this biennium and $478 million over the life of this fund. And finally, we are providing an additional $50 million through this whole amendment package for the City of Richmond's combined sewer and overflow project. And I think it's important for us to recognize that state funding offered to the capital of our Commonwealth for this vital effort now totals $318 million. In addition, after careful consideration, and I have to say an enormous amount of arm twisting and a site visit with Delegate Gary Higgins, our package of budget amendments includes language to authorize the consideration of establishing Oak Hill, the historic home of Virginia Governor and 5th President of the United States, James Monroe, as a state park. Finally, my amendments restore the bipartisan priority of creating the Virginia Gaming Commission that was originally included in the House of Delegates' past version of HB 1600. Given the rapid growth of gaming around Virginia, it is imperative that we establish a consolidated, coordinated, professional oversight. It is now spread everywhere. And I have to say the incredible job that is being done at the Virginia Lottery is oftentimes unexpressed. And I want to thank you for the tremendous job you're doing leading the lottery. Thank you. This package of amendments, 205 amendments, 8 item vetoes, is in response to 515 amendments that came to me. I firmly believe that we can, with collaboration and cooperation, present Virginians a budget that accomplishes all our goals, a budget that provides substantial incremental tax relief at a time we know they need it, a budget that funds critical items, but doesn't overburden the next biennium with program spending, and a budget that recognizes that while we have confidence in our forecast, that there may be risks that we have to address. And therefore, by adding an incremental $300 million of revenue reserve funding on top of the nearly $300 already in the budget package, we are prepared. Virginia is strong, we are dynamic, and we will continue winning together. Thank you, and I will ask Secretary Cummings to go into a little more detail, although I didn't leave him much room, in the specifics of our amendment package.
Thank you, Governor. You did save me some time. Thank you. So, can't help but think back to the different sessions over the course of time that we've been here, and as a point-in-time snapshot of where we started to now, it really is remarkable what has been accomplished in terms of prioritized spending, in terms of the changes in the environment around jobs, and the return of money to taxpayers and the bolstering of our balance sheet. It really is remarkable, and hopefully I get that point across today to leave us in this position where we are truly strong, dynamic, and winning. So, 276,400 jobs added since January of 2022, 4.6 million jobs, the highest number of jobs ever in the Commonwealth. Number one state for business, also the number one state for sites, a new award this year, with $102 billion of announced capital coming into the Commonwealth that will generate 70,000 new jobs as those projects are completed. Super important is after more than a decade of losing families that choose to leave Virginia versus those that choose to come to Virginia from other states. We lost for 12 years straight, and this year we just turned that number positive. That's a citizens of the United States voting with their feet, and we have changed that vote. We've never been in better financial condition, consistently exceeding the prudent forecasts that we have presented. Rainy day reserves at unprecedented levels, 17% of our latest revenues. We are one of the best positioned triple AAA rated states. There are 15 of them. We actually had a call with Moody's this past week. They're all looking at what's going on in Washington, but all would agree that Virginia stands out in terms of its conservative financial management and the current position of us prepared for what may come. Strong year-to-date results continue to say, if you just didn't listen to anything else, looked at that, you would say, wow, Virginia is continuing to do great. And the governor's amendments, which he just went through, they do provide a prudent approach to addressing the costs of our priorities, the key priorities he went through, and also increasing our cushion, our rainy day reserve fund, to $5 billion. This is really important, not just in the number, 276,400 jobs that we have generated since January 2022. We are effectively competing. If you go back to when we began, we were at the bottom of this list for that year and all years prior to that. So some really amazing things have been done in this area of economic development. We all know we won the prize for number one state for business, and the key on this, I want to echo what the governor just said, was first, education. We always rank very high on that, but we're number 3 for infrastructure, where we've come up in the rankings, and it is the most heavily weighted category in driving the decisions of companies to come to the Commonwealth. And that was reflected in a new award, which is the number 1 business facility state of the year for 2024. This is the key of the vote with their feet metric. You can see what happened over the years 14 to 2024, or 2023, where we were net negative. That's 140,000 residents on a net basis left Virginia. Very important is the line above the chart that we lost $14.3 billion of adjusted gross income with that net move of who left and who came back in. We tended to lose the higher income people. We actually brought in more of the lower end workers, lower income workers came into Virginia. 12,800 per year, and that accounts for about 1.6 billion of AGI per year. Huge economic, it's a hole in our bucket. It's a huge economic loss on our revenue base. Just think if we still had that here with all the good things we've been doing. Virginia labor force, you can see here, dramatic growth to 4.6 million workers, and a participation rate that is one of the top participation rates in the country. Here's a picture of the budgets over this time frame. We all know we've had great revenue results, and that the outcomes for each year have comprised of some forecast adjusting along the way, and then exceeding those prudent forecasts by additional amounts, adding a surplus, and then the adjustment that we applied here in December after input from our economists and our Gaker Council to, once again, as shown by recent results, we have a prudent forecast which we are ahead of. This is a chart that is really stunning. On something that was developed many years ago, the progress that's been made over the last few years. But if you look at FY 2022, when the governor arrived, we were at $2.6 billion and about 9%, and we have just about doubled that over the time of this administration to put ourselves in a position that is truly impressive and that helps us all sleep at night. This is, along with that, this is a comparison to the 15 states that have AAA ratings from all three major rating agencies. And you can see back in 2019, prior to the pandemic, we were near the bottom of the list at 4% of general fund expenditures. And over the time frame, most of which, as you saw in the prior chart, happened since 2022, we have now doubled, well, we have gone up to number 3 from 14, and we are currently at 17%. We have had the discipline in our budget to continue to put money in, some by what is required by formula, but also, as we've said in this budget, discretionary incremental amounts that will be going in given the current situation. Fiscal year to date, results are great. Frankly, we continue to be positively surprised, not surprised, but continue to experience positive results relative to forecast. We're 6.6% up on a year-to-date basis, year over year, very impressive growth rate. And then with respect to our forecast, which was just put in place in December, we are $187 million ahead, which gives us money in the bank to make sure that we are confident in our being able to achieve the annual number. Most important is payroll withholding, and I will add sales and use tax are both staying very strong. Those are the two most important revenue sources, and they're the best indicators on the health of our economy. So through February, you can see both of those numbers are quite strong, and this provides good confidence that we are going to meet our forecast. This is more detail behind that. What I will emphasize at the bottom, that last bullet, is that we only need to grow by 0.3% year over year to achieve our forecast. And the numbers that are circled up in the chart, withholding and sales and use taxes, our most important revenue drivers, continue to have strong immediate results in February and year to date at 7.1% and 2.5%. This is versus forecast. We're ahead of projections by 1%, or $187 million year to date. Employment has continued to grow, 1.5% to 2% year over year. You can see on the left-hand chart and that for January, we actually added 7,100 jobs. That is 40,000 over the last 6 months. And very importantly is the chart on the right, where our unemployment rate is only 3%. We actually have the 6th lowest unemployment rate in the country. I think we all know, we hear it every day, companies still have a hard time finding people to fill their jobs. And this explains that. So we have a tight starting labor supply. We have 2 open jobs, as the governor mentioned, for every position unemployed. That's 259,000 people who are looking, companies who are looking for workers. And on the right-hand side, it shows that whereas in the U.S., we have 0.9% unemployed persons per job opening, Virginia stands at 0.5, which is 2 to 1 versus almost 1 to 1 for the nation. A lot of focus on unemployment claims, understandably, given the headlines that we see every day. This is a 15-year look at initial claims for unemployment insurance, and it shows that whereas we're watching this every time it ticks, that we're actually not in a place that it is out of place with what it has been historically, particularly as you go back pre-pandemic. We are watching this closely, as is everybody. There obviously were some recent rise in claims that got a lot of headlines, and the reality of that, as we look at very important details, is that rise in claims was completely related to private sector companies that have no dependency on federal spending. So we have not really seen this show up in our data yet, but as I said, we are watching it closely. So we are in a great position of financial strength. 3 years of great revenues and a prudent budget, which has been the Virginia way. Huge investments in critical priorities. Rainy day reserve is at $5 billion, up from 9%, 17% up from 9% in 2022. And we have tax relief and rebates of $9 billion as we've done all those things over the term of Governor Youngkin. Importantly, we are now winning the war for economic growth. 276,000 new jobs added since January 2022, #1 state for business, and that's generated $102 billion of new investment in the Commonwealth and leading to 70,000 new jobs. That's supported also by all of the startup companies that have been created. And then the turnaround in net migration, domestic migration, and a beginning tight labor supply. So, as the governor said, we all understand there is uncertainty out there. The president has talked about that. Secretary of Treasury has also said that. Not surprising given the actions that need to be taken. We have the things we hear from people are, first is, are we at risk for meeting our 2025 revenue targets? As you know, as I've gone through that, we are highly confident that we are in a good place. And if something happened that was completely unexpected, we have an incredibly strong reserve position. Potential federal workforce and contractor job losses. Virginia has jobs. We have incredibly tight labor supply to begin with. We have 259,000 open positions, and we have a very robust unemployment insurance trust fund standing by. It's important for everybody to understand on federal job losses, the federal government takes care of the unemployment insurance claims. That's not going to be on the Commonwealth. And we think that the financial risks associated with potential future economic dislocation is that we have a robust pipeline of new jobs coming to Virginia. VEDP is a machine that is working very, very well. The effort and coordination across all of government that is driving that is well in place, and it's showing its results. Reshoring is a real thing. There was just another announcement this morning of Hyundai announcing a $20 billion investment in new facilities in the U.S., and that comes after dozens of other announcements just in the last few weeks in light of some of the coming pressures that they will face to continue to do business in the U.S. And we continue to have prudent budgeting for cushioning against potential revenue shortfalls, reducing near-term spend, the run rate of permanent spending, $5 billion in our reserves, making sure that we have positioned ourselves to not just be able to put more into the rainy day fund this year, but also creating some capacity for the upcoming biennium. And importantly, in a time of higher interest rates, no new debt issuance, being replaced by cash. I think the governor went through the budget amendments that he has proposed. I don't think I need to repeat that. It's all here in black and white detail for everybody. So I will just click through that rather than repeat. And finish with Virginia is strong, dynamic, and winning. We're strong, continuing to grow jobs. Current financial results exceed our forecast. Economic development has huge momentum. So many things that are in the pipeline in addition to what's already been accomplished. Significant investments have been made while returning $9 billion in tax relief and rainy day reserves at an unprecedented and, frankly, if you go back a few years, remarkable level of cushion for the Commonwealth. We are dynamic. We understand the risks. We are watching them closely as a team, and we are well positioned to respond to whatever may come. $3.2 billion surplus over Chapter 2 and carryover balances. We can continue to do all the things we need to do while we continue to provide tax relief and invest in our rainy day reserve. And we are now effectively competing for the long term as we go through this potential for economic impact. We have great confidence in where Virginia will be on whatever we have to go through in the next few years. So thank you. Appreciate your support. Thank you.
Perfect. So I want to thank everyone for attending today. The key message is very clear, that the strength of the Commonwealth today is unprecedented. We are stronger than we've ever been. We can use that strength to power forward. We are dynamic in the way we are planning. We have critical investments that we are making. We are driving those investments to very productive outcomes, and yet we are able to stash away more reserves just in case we need them. A reserve balance which is at a record level, a balance sheet that has never been stronger, a job market that has never been stronger, companies that want to be here, Virginians that want to be here, because we are continuing to win together. I look forward to discussing this package of amendments with the General Assembly over the coming week. I look forward to them reconvening on April the 2nd and taking up our package of amendments. Most importantly, I look forward to delivering a budget to Virginians that raises people's optimism, underpins their hope, and most importantly, recognizes that we win together. Now, God bless you all, and guess what time it is? Time to go to work. Okay, thank you, thank you.